Hello, this is Mr. Doty again, and this video we're going to talk about AutoCAD, and we're going to go over a few of the commands in the draw section of your ribbon, and we'll see how this goes. So try to make this about 20 minutes, and we'll give you a little dash of how to draw. All right, we'll see how far we can go. We've got a lot of items up here in the draw category, but first of all, we need to start a drawing. So let's start a drawing. On a side note, does anybody ever remember? No, you probably don't, but when I was growing up, we had these little stories, and that little noise that just played a second ago is kind of like, when you turn the page and it goes dee 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 or something like that. Uh, just some other little tidbits of information that you don't care about. So, but anyway, all right. So up here in the draw section, have to be entertaining, right? So you've got line, polyline, circle, arc, rectangle. Under rectangle you have polygon, then you have ellipse, and you have three different options, and then you have this thing called hatch. Alright, if you click on the little draw arrow down here, you have some other items like spline, construction lines, or X line. You have ray, point, divide, which is actually a nice command. I'm not sure why it's under draw, but that's okay. Measure. Let's see, we've got region, which is a hatch. Wipeout, which is basically, it's kind of like hiding something underneath kind of a hatch pattern, sort of. Or if you think about whiteout, it's kind of like that. 3D polyline, which we're not going to do. A helix, we're not going to do. Donuts are interesting. You can make your own dots with those. And then you have a rectangular revision cloud, which are things that you put on a drawing to show where you've made changes. Alright, so let's knock that guy back up, and let's just look at this. So in the previous video we talked a little bit about lines and coordinates, and whether it be polar or absolute or relative, which actually relative and polar, they're all relative. And so I start at a point, right, and then as long as I've got display or dynamic on, then it shows up and tells me how long my option is for it. So then I could type in 20, and then I could go up and say, hey, I want it to be 20. And then I could, oh, hey, wait a minute, what's the deal? All right, remember, hold down on your middle mouse button to pan, and then zoom in and out with your scroll mouse button. Okay, so just as a reminder, your left mouse button, if I say pick or click, that's the left. Right click, obviously the right button. And your scrolling mouse button is, of course, the middle mouse wheel. Alright, so 20. Now in the book they talk about using the close command. Well, let me just tell you this. I don't ever use the close command because the only way it works is if you're in one continuous line going all the way around. And so if I hit C for close, sure, it closes it up. The only time that close is really of any value is on a polyline, and I can kind of show you here in a minute what that is. But what I usually do is I go ahead and when I'm drawing, and I'm drawing, and I'm drawing, and I'm drawing, and I'm drawing, I just go ahead and pick where I want to put that last one and then hit enter. Remember, you can use your space bar as enter. You can right click, or you've got your two enter keys. And you can type in, like L for line, you can type that in. You can go up here and click on line. So you've got lots of options for inputting your commands. So that's the line command. Pretty simple. You remember on line, you could go into line, pick a starting point. If you want to do a polar command, you put in at, you put in your distance, you put in your angle. Remember, your angles start over on your right hand side at 0. So 0 is all the way to the right, 90 is up. Or if you want to think, east is 0, north is 90, west is 180, south is 270, and of course you go back around to 0. Alright, so what angle do we want to put this at? Well, let's say we wanted it to be 15 degrees. So there you go. And so I now have a line that's 5 long and at 15 degrees. And that's off of 0, which 0 goes straight across. So this line right here is at 0 degrees. If I drew it from this side, if I drew it from this side, it going this way, it would be 180. Okay? It's all relative to where you start from, if you want to think of it that way. Alright, so that's our line command. Well, you know what? You could also make a rectangle and have the same option, right? So you could say that you wanted it to be start here, and if you want to use your relative commands, now with dynamic mode on, this guy right here, you don't have to put in the @ symbol, but you still can. I'm in the habit of doing it just because that's how I learned how to do it. When dynamic's on, it's implied, and really the only time you have to put it in is when you want a polar coordinate, or you just want to type it in as a polar coordinate. Alright, so if I wanted this to be 15 by 15, then I would put in 15 comma 15. Now if I put in 15 and then put comma 15 and I didn't put the @ symbol, it would imply that and add the @ for me and make my rectangle at 15 by 15. Now this is handy because you don't have to draw each of the lines by using the line command. So that's kind of cool. Alright, moving on, we have our polyline, and you're saying, what the heck's a polyline? Well, you'll notice when you hover over each one of these, they light up separately. Okay, so that means that they're individual lines. But now the rectangle, check that out. All 4 of them light up, and it says, hey, this is a polyline. Whereas this guy, when I hover over it, it just says it's a line. So what's the difference? Well, polylines all connected, which is nice sometimes. Now I can turn this into a polyline if I want to, but we'll do that later. Well, I mean, I guess I could show you the pedit function, which is polyline edit. Since we're talking about polylines, why not? So there's a command called pedit. So PE for pedit or polyline edit. And so like if you want to change something with it, you can change the width, like if you want to change the width. So right now I don't have any idea what the width is. It's just the default, right? So what I want to do is maybe I want it to be, I don't know, 0.0625. Let's say a 16th. And if you zoom up on it a little bit, you can tell it's a little thicker. There you go. Now, what if I wanted to change it into a curve? Well, I can do a curve that fits within those 4 corners. Now, who'd have thunk it that if you take a square and you do a fit curve, you end up with a circle? It makes sense, right? Because, you know, they're equal distant across, right? Equal angles, equal distance, so you end up with a circle. That works. You can also do a spline. Now, you're asking, what the heck's a spline? A spline is a curve that does not go through any of the points that you created, and it's something that happens inside of a computer. Usually we don't do a spline by hand because I don't know what the calculation is for it to work, to be honest. So anyway, just remember that a spline doesn't go through your points. A fit curve does. So if you were doing if you were creating a diagram for a cam, then you would probably want to use the fit curve when you created your points, and that's using a polyline. Alright, the other thing is, if you want to get rid of your curve, take it back to what it was originally, you hit decurve. Now your other options that you have on here, you've got join, edit vertexes, those kinds of things. Um, I'm going to enter to finish out of this. What if we wanted to make this into a polyline? We could do that. Oops. Pedit, right? Select polyline. It says, hey, this isn't a polyline, but do you want to make it one? Sure, why not? All right, then you go to join, pick all of these guys like so, boom. Remember, we have the blue or solid window. That's the one that you have to get all the way around. The green one, you just have to hit part of it, right? So that's all I want to join. And there, if you were to hit enter to finish it out, then there it is. Now there's also what we call, well, I'll just go ahead and tell you about this one too. You also have the join command, right? It does the same thing. So like if you wanted to pick these 4 items to join, you don't have to turn them into a polyline, even though it probably will turn it into one for us. And then you hit enter. And so now, if I hover over it, it turns it into a polyline. So there's 2 ways if you want to hook them together. There's pedit, right? Or there's join. The join command's a little easier because that's all you're doing. Now pedit, that one's more if you want to change it to a fit curve, you want to change the width, you know. So like an example, like what if you were wanting to make, so we'll pick a starting point, right? What if you were wanting to make an arrowhead? Well, used to, AutoCAD had this really cool thing called leader that you could just make it without text, and then you could, you know, have your arrowheads. And anyway, so one of the books we used to use came up with this little thing. Well, hey, just why don't you just make a polyline and just change the widths of each end to make it into an arrowhead. So I said, okay, why not? So I'm going to hit W for width, and then I'm going to start it at, let's just say 0.125, because that's the typical 1/8, and then the ending is going to be 0. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it this way, and I'm going to type in 3/8, because typically your arrowheads are 3 times longer than they are wide or tall, if you, in this case. So I'm going to put in 0.375, and then I'm going to hit enter. Now zoom up, I have this pretty arrowhead. Pretty cool, right? I thought so. I thought it was a pretty good idea. Always something. Alright, so that is using a polyline. So what else can we do with this? So we got polyline. Let's just look at it real quick. It says you've got, oh, hey, here's something else you can do with it. So let's go back and let's change our width. Oh, all right. You have to pick a starting point first. So there's my starting point. Change my width. Let's say I want my width to be 0.0625. Why not? And then notice it asks you if you want the end to be the same, and sure, that's fine. It shows up down there. So here we go. Alright, so let's draw, I'm going to draw this, and then I'm going to hit arc over here, or I could type in A, and then I'm going to go straight up and make me a nice little arc like so. And then I'm going to hit L for line, or I can pick line right there, boom. And then I'm going to hover down over this, bring it straight up, boom. And then guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to hit A for arc again, pull it straight down, and there we go. And I'm done. I guess I could hit close. See, on a polyline, if you hit close, then it makes everything all nice and neat and even. On this shape it shouldn't matter, but on a rectangle or square, if you change it, it leaves this little funky corner thing, which I could show you here in a sec. So let's just hit enter and finish it out. Alright, so let's look at this. So That corner's good. Okay, here's the, oh, it must just be whatever size it is. So I guess it depends on the size, but if you make them really thick, um, and wherever you started your corner, if you didn't close it, well, that's a rectangle. I didn't change that one. Here, let's try this one. Or let's do this. Let's go and do a polyline, right? Come on. Yeah, sometimes you have to hover over it for a second. Pick, and then, okay, instead of closing, I'm going to pick, hit enter. Now I'm going to go to pedit, right? Pedit, pick, change my width, 0.125. Boom. And enter to finish out. Right. Okay. Now, see, that's what I was talking about. So you have this little funkiness here. So if I'd hit close, it would make it look more like this guy where it's all nice and even, see? Alright. Okay, so we're at about 16 minutes now, and so we've talked about the line, we talked about polylines, rectangles. Your next option here is going to be circles. So you have all kinds of options, right? You've got center radius, center diameter, 2 points, 3 points, tangent, tangent radius, and tangent, tangent, tangent. Okay, well, let's look at this. So radius obviously is when you draw it and you're halfway across the circle. Look at your drawings when you're working on your drawings. Make sure which one you need. And here's the point. If I just hit enter and go back into circle, right? So I hit enter, which I could have used the space bar or the enter key, or right click and hit enter. It automatically goes to radius. Okay, so if you pick a center point and then it says, hey, this is radius, or do you want diameter? Well, then you can hit D or type in D and hit enter, and then it transfers it over to diameter for you, and you can actually have a diameter. Now, what I've started doing is just using this up here in the ribbon, and I'll just make sure that if I need a diameter, I pick on it, and there's my diameter, and I type in whatever it is, 6, there it is. And then if I need radius, I go back and see I can hover over the center of that guy, type in 6, and you'll notice that it's twice as big, which is what it's supposed to be. So just remember, pay attention to whether it's radius or diameter to where you get which side it is. And the bigger one was the radius, and that was the diameter. Okay, so enough about that. 2 point, real easy. 2 points, right? Apparently, we don't have midpoint on, so let's turn midpoint on real quick. And let's go from there to there, right? So 2 point, no big deal. What else you got? 3 point, okay, 3 points, that's fine. Let's see, what if we wanted to make one from here to here, and then make it TAN tangent to here? And we'll talk more about the object snaps in a bit, but not on this video. Alright, so I made it endpoint, endpoint, and then tangent with that guy. Kind of looks like a snowman on the side, right? Okay, well, in that case, then we have tangent, tangent, radius. So you have TTR. So I pick what I'm tangent with, boom. I pick what I'm tangent with, boom. And then what's my radius? Well, let's just use the radius I had a minute ago. Usually you need to know what the radius is. And there it is. Now your other option, okay, so you have TTR, then you have TTT, or tangent, tangent, tangent. And in that case, you say that you want it to be tangent with this, and tangent with that. And it doesn't like it, so let's try again, something else. So let's try tangent again. So I'm going to say I want it to be tangent with this, tangent with this, and let's try tangent with that. There we go. See, that works. So it's tangent, tangent, tangent. All kinds of different options for what you want to do. Alright, so basically this video we've covered basic line command, basic polyline. We talked about pedit and join, two commands that you can edit your polylines or create polylines with from just a regular line. And then we also talked about your circles. And that's 20 minutes worth of stuff, so have fun and play around with them, and hope you learned something. Have fun.